Hey y'all, this is Billy Don Loper, the Magnolia Outreach Coordinator here at the Mississippi Library Commission. Today we're going to take a look at one of the great databases offered on Magnolia to all Mississippians through their local public school libraries, and academic libraries with support from the state legislature. So we're going to step over to a database view and I'm going to walk you through how to make most out of your time on Magnolia. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Britannica School for middle schoolers. So if you've seen our other two videos on the Britannica suite of resources, Britannica Fundamentals and Britannica Elementary, today is the last one of this kind of three-part video series about the highest level of Britannica resources offered through Magnolia. And we're going to do, just like we did in the previous video on Britannica School for elementary age students, we're going to walk through each piece of Britannica. I'm not going to linger a long time on some of the different resources, as if you've watched the Britannica School for elementary age, you'll know that a lot of this is going to be exactly the same. The functionality is just a little bit different. But the first thing I'm going to highlight here is the My Britannica area. You can create a My Britannica account for free. All it requires is a name and an email. I would highly recommend not only do you do it as a parent or educator or librarian, but also that you have any students or kids in your life who are going to be making use of Britannica, create an account as well, because it is a great place to kind of highlight and save resources. But to get into the database itself, you'll see up here it does highlight that we are in the middle school age range. If you click on the Britannica School logo, it will take you to the main Britannica School page where you can choose elementary or middle school. But we're going to stick into middle school for the entirety of the day. And the first thing we'll do is start off with an example search. And we are going to do an example search for the American Revolution. That's going to bring up a really broad, really wide range of resources. You'll see here right at the top, you have your primary articles about the American Revolution, states involved in the American Revolution, and then images, videos, and other resources. You can also change your area here. You can go and just look at the images related to the American Revolution, just look at the videos, and you can also access additional resources, including two that we're going to focus on very quickly right now. One is Web's Best Sites. These are resources that are external to Britannica, but are free, vetted educational resources that the folks over at Britannica have picked as relevant resources for a topic. And then primary sources, you're going to see the collection of primary sources that Britannica for middle schoolers has related to the American Revolution. Not every topic will necessarily have associated primary sources, but this is going to be very common in English language arts and social studies. But heading back to the main page, there's a lot more to Britannica than just doing quick searches. An important thing to remember, especially when you're in this middle school age range, is Britannica is not just a research resource, it is also an interactive education resource, a tool that you can use to get young learners excited about learning and education. One thing that facilitates this is the In the News area. So if we actually click over to the In the News, you'll see it actually takes you to Britannica School's blog. They run two different blogs, one associated with middle school age students, one associated with elementary age students, and it has various topics, current events that are relevant to readers of that age that they can explore. These are not articles. They are not viewed as articles in Britannica. They don't come up in searches. It is a separate area meant to facilitate things like classroom exercises, bell ringers, and exit tickets focused on current events. And then you're going to have your featured area. If you click into any of these featured areas, say we were to click into What's a Glacier, it is going to take you to a video including the transcript, explaining what a glacier is. And that's all that the kind of featured area is. This is going to change regularly on a set schedule that Britannica has to highlight different things that are in the news or different relevant topics. Our next area that we're going to pause for a moment and take a look at is the interactives. There is a pervasive issue with the way that you have to navigate interactives. They are great tools and very useful, and I'm going to walk you all through them. But it is really important that you are prepared and know about the challenges that interactives can introduce. Say you are a social studies teacher, you're working with a middle school social studies class talking about world history at the moment, and you want to make use out of this ancient Mesopotamia interactive. You come here and you click into it. It is not actually going to take you to the one on ancient Mesopotamia. It is going to take you to the full list of 296 interactives. Now, these interactives are great to quickly use the 13 colonies timeline as an example. It is an interactive click-through slideshow that shows the progression of the founding of the original 13 colonies in America. They're all great resources like that. A lot of them are science-focused, like this one on Albert Einstein. A lot of them are social studies-focused. You have ones on key literary figures, but they are organized alphabetically and through this number system that you just saw there at the bottom. So in order to get to ancient Mesopotamia, we have to guess, is it an M for Mesopotamia or A for ancient? And you have to click through this whole process of finding them. We're not going to take the time today to hunt down the one on ancient Mesopotamia, but it is right here under ancient. So if you would have clicked through, assumed it was under Mesopotamia, you would have had to go there, realize that it's not, and then come back and find it in another place. But on any of these, you can click into them. For example, this science quiz on which animal is longer, you can click into them, you can go to more tools, and then it's going to give you a selection of function buttons right here. Now through these, you can click on this paper airplane and it'll allow you to create a permanent link, email it to yourself, or send it to Google Classroom. You can then save it. We're going to go ahead and save it to our new example resource pack, and we'll go over what that means in a little more detail later on. This is also the area where you can cite, generate a citation, or increase the font size of your ancillary text. Now, increasing and decreasing the font size does not alter the text on the image. Those are static images. But that's not the only way to get to the interactives. I'm going to very quickly show you a much more efficient way. So let's say you were looking for information on ancient Mesopotamia. You could go and do a quick search for that, and you'll see here is Mesopotamia. This is an article about not necessarily just ancient Mesopotamia, but the entire history of that civilization. And as you click through here on what is called the gallery, there is our interactive on ancient Mesopotamia. You can click into it and access it from the article. From there, you can then go to more tools. You can then save it or send it to yourself, however you would like to do that. So that is a much more efficient way of accessing the interactives, and that is actually a new feature just recently added late 2025 to Britannica School. So if you've been struggling with the interactives and you came to this video looking for some additional resources on managing them, that is an important thing to note. But probably the most important area on Britannica is the Explore area. There is a featured video of the week, but what we're interested in is these three tiles over here. These are your primary navigation and exploration tabs. Now, if you click into biographies, it just gives you a list of the biographies hosted on Britannica. Pictures and videos is the same thing, but articles is actually going to bring up a collection of tiles that you can then use to explore various topics. So let's actually say we click into living things. Here on the side, you'll see your list for things like bacteria, fungi, and then you have your primary navigation tabs, things like articles, media, and then your biographies. But we're going to start out, we're just going to click into one of these. We'll click into the first one listed here on algae and go over very quickly what your articles look like in Britannica for middle school. So here you'll see the primary article for algae. Every article you click into or any biographies you click into are going to look exactly like this. They will have this top area here called a gallery that you can click through and view different multimedia, including videos. And like I just highlighted with ancient Mesopotamia, if Britannica does have an interactive listed for the topic you're looking at, it will show up here in the gallery. And then you have your primary article, which is broken up into different sections in order to prevent presenting the learner with just a wall of text. And then these different sections can be worked through with the navigator, this big sidebar kind of remote control over here. So you'll see you can click from section to section, and that will automatically open and close, shifting to the next section. You can open all sections and close all sections. You can shift from the article over to the gallery, and that will actually just pull you back to the top. Then you can actually click into the related area. You can explore related topics, click into any of them, and very quickly access their articles. You can also quickly access primary sources and the web best sites for these areas, or you can come back over to the primary article. And then you have your blue buttons, which are your function buttons, things like cite, save. Again, we can save this to our resource pack. Send, which again lets you email it, send it to a Google Classroom, and then you can print it. And as you'll see here, it pulls up a print page that is unformatted, pulls out all of the images, and allows you to just print the base text that you could then provide to a student. And if you wanted to print any of the photos, you could click into them, download them, and print them from there. You have your green buttons as well. And the green buttons are actually going to be your accessibility features. So you have Translate, which is powered by the most recent versions of Google Translate. You can access it. It won't necessarily be perfect, but it will help address some of those English second language concerns. And in the vein of accessibility features, you also have these features here, which are read aloud features. And you can click through and it will read the article aloud to the learner. And then you can increase or decrease the font size and put it into Open Dyslexic font. Open Dyslexic is an open source font that makes it easier for dyslexic learners to read without the issues of swapping letters or misordering words, things like that. But that is going to be the way that any article or biography is going to function in Britannica, and that is your core of the resource. And as we go down the rest of the website, you'll see that it's more just repetition of the same thing. So right now, their highlighted collection is Dinosaurs at a Glance. That, just like the other featured areas, will change regularly. Same thing here with the Did You Know section on zebras, and then your other areas here, and a quick access for primary sources down at the bottom. This area on primary sources is static, so that's a great place to access those resources should you ever need them. But before we wrap it up today, that is really everything about the database, but I want to highlight quickly the features of My Britannica. So if we click over here and we go to Saved Content, you're going to see that it has some different things pulled over. So first of all, the saved content is just going to be a list of everything you have ever saved on Britannica. And you'll see that there is a lot here that we didn't talk about today. We just talked about a few things, but I have a primary source of the United States Constitution, the Federalist Papers, an interactive quiz on bacteria. These are all things that I have saved at different points. But if we go over to resource packs, you'll see that they're organized in a different way. We were placing things in the new example resource today. And you'll see there is our article on algae, our interactives on ancient Mesopotamia and animals. So this is a great way to very quickly build out information. But let's actually step back over and take a look at this area here you'll see called lesson plans. We haven't created any lesson plans here today, but we're going to create one real quick just to highlight this core feature of Britannica for middle schoolers. And this is through the My Britannica area. We are actually going to go to our resource pack on 5th grade social studies, where we have an article about John Adams and an article about the Declaration of Independence. That is actually a primary source document. So this isn't anything we talked about today. I had saved these earlier, but I've been here working in my Britannica, and say we decide to convert to a lesson plan, and here you go. So you'll see that it pulls up a lesson plan builder. From here, you can create a title, you can select your grade range, you can enter a description, and you can fill out your subjects, your objectives and assessments, procedures, and all of the relevant lesson planning information. This is a very new feature, came out around the same time that they made the updates to the interactives in late 2025. But this is a huge resource that can be a big boon to educators working with middle school students. So the important thing to note about this, though, is it does not have Mississippi state standards integrated into it. So you will still need to be aware of those. You will still need to take those and be sure that you tie them back to your objectives if you're an educator or a school librarian helping build lesson plans. You will still need to be sure you are relating them to the standards. Britannica cannot do that for you, but that is still a great resource. And that pretty much covers everything about Britannica School for middle school age learners. Again, just to reiterate, this is a great resource for doing quick research and finding accurate information that is still built on that foundational Britannica process of research, editing, and ensuring the most accurate information possible. And through this resource, you can encourage learners not only to learn what good information looks like, but also to learn and explore different resources through the various interactive and exploration-focused features on Britannica School. Thank you very much.
The video you have just viewed is an MLC production, made possible in part with funding from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. We encourage you to visit our YouTube channel and our LibGuides for further resources and supporting content.